All right, so good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending our webinar today. I'll first start with an introduction. My name is Dr. Tiffany Bidding, and I serve as the Career Center Director at CSUSB. Very excited to have you all here today to really talk about our partnership and our launch with Parker Dewey. The purpose of us bringing you all here today is to really talk about ways that you all can promote your micro-internships or opportunities that you may have not thought about before. But for us as a career center, it's been really helpful to partner with them over the past year for our students that may need to work and go to school, but need some flexibility, and they really want to get some paid internship experience to put on their resume. So over the past year, we actually have partnered with our Undocumented Center to promote these opportunities to students and to prepare them to go through the process. So today we have Kristen Schrader here with us. She's part of the Parker Dewey team, and she'll share a lot more details and an overview of the awesome things they have coming down the pipeline and ways that we all could work together to really promote opportunities to students.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for taking the time to join us today to learn a little bit more about what micro-internships are. And now, if this is a totally new concept for you, you're in the perfect place because we're going to talk not only about what micro-internships are, but more strategically about how they can be used to help with your early career recruiting. Whether you have some quick project that you just don't have enough hours in the day to do, which who doesn't? Or maybe you have or still have open roles that you're trying to fill for this summer's internships, or you still have some early career hiring roles that, entry level roles, et cetera, that again, you're some looking for some awesome CSUSB talent. Again, we're so excited to have you join us, and really thank you to Dr. Bidding for the invitation to join us today. A couple of housekeeping things before we roll into the content here. So we are recording today's session. Please, if you have to step away, no, not to worry. We will send the recording. We'll send the slides afterwards, as well as some other relevant next steps for you. But that being said, as someone who personally leads a lot of webinars, but doesn't really enjoy attending them, I want this to be as productive for you as possible. So please let me know if you have questions. I have the chat up and running, and I'm happy to answer those questions as close to real time as I possibly can. Certainly don't want to make or to leave questions unanswered. So keep the chat hopping as much as with whatever it might be top of mind. Also note that the flow of today's conversation is going to essentially have two key parts. First of all, we're going to talk a bit at a high level about what micro-internships are and also how they can be used for your early career recruiting. You'll see some data and all of that. We're going to start with the kind of big picture, but then give you an opportunity that if you want to learn more, great, you can stick around and we'll have some more details at the kind of second half of today's conversation. If you have to step away, that'll be a time where you can see some additional opportunities to dig deeper at a later time if that's better for your schedule. So lots of options today. Just also so you know my background, as Dr. Bidding mentioned, my name is Kristen Schrader. I lead the partnerships team here at Parker Dewey. But my background, first within human resources, I did college recruiting early in my career, but I also have spent quite a bit of time at various academic institutions, all in career services. I am very passionate about the early career stage of one's professional journey, about helping students connect to great organizations like yours and helping organizations like yours find and hire the best new members of your team. We all know hiring is hard. We've been in that role ourselves many, many times over, I'm sure. So I'm really excited to share how this can be a helpful resource for you. All that being said, let's go ahead and I want to hear a little bit from each of you. So I've got a quick one question poll for you before we jump into today's conversation. One question, all I really want to know is what hiring challenges are you trying to solve right now? Do you have an entry-level role or internship that's open right now? Are you experiencing some specific pain points? You can choose one or many of the options, but I'll take a breath for a moment and let you answer this quick poll. All right, thank you so much. Looks like most everyone's had a chance to answer, so I appreciate you taking the time. We will be circling back to the responses on this poll, so I'm going to leave it open in case we have some late arrivals, but appreciate everybody who had a chance to answer the question. So thank you again so very much. So just a brief little bit about my organization, Parker Dewey. You'll notice our logo is essentially a Venn diagram because we have three primary stakeholders. Organizations like yours, because our goal and mission is to help you access, engage, assess, and ultimately hire early career talent. And as I mentioned before, whether that's for a quick project that you just don't have enough time in the day to complete, or you're looking more long-term strategically about how you can connect with students to engage and hire for any open early career roles. I keep saying early career. Our method of doing this is to connect you to folks who are very early, whether they are current undergraduate students, maybe graduate students or recent grads. These also could include folks who are transitioning from one career to another, or who are completing non-degree certification or boot camp type programs. We are honored to partner with institutions like CSUSB, as well as hundreds of academic institutions nationwide who are excited to support, as you heard from Dr. Bidding earlier, their students and being able to bring them opportunities to gain real paid professional experience. Our method and all we do is focused on these micro-internships, which are essentially short-term paid professional projects. And we'll talk more about that in more detail in just a moment. But that is what we focus on. We actually coined the concept about 10 years ago and have been learning a few things over the years about what makes good projects, what kinds of support students and organizations need to be able to execute these projects successfully, and also how they can be used for you at scale to be able to hire great talent for your organization. We've also seen a lot of data to show the efficacy of the model, and I'll share some of that with you in a moment. Which leads me to my third stakeholder, so organizations and students, and third being our incredible partners, such as CSUSB, who are engaging their students, engaging employers like yours, and bringing us all together, because at the core, we want to help you make some amazing early career hires through this model. And you can see some organizations who have implemented micro-internships. Their logos are at the bottom, but we'll be talking more about some specific case studies as we work through this as well. Now, why early career? Well, there's frankly a lot of challenges around early career recruiting, and I'm sure many of you live and breathe this, but it's expensive. And what students tell us is that these models, these methods of connecting with employers often fall short of allowing the student to really demonstrate what they can bring to your organization. And a third big challenge is that many students don't participate in early career recruiting. Maybe they don't know about the career fair. Maybe they can't go to the career fair because of another class or having to work part-time or full-time job. Or maybe they're volunteering, or maybe they have extracurriculars, or maybe they have athletics, and the list goes on. And what this means for you is that even though there are incredible opportunities to connect with early career talent, it's not going to reach everybody. And it's not something that is maybe as effective in allowing you to really make a well-informed hiring decision. And same thing with the students. And so it leads to mishires, disengaged hires, or students that could have been amazing but didn't even know to apply for your opportunities. And you can see some data to support some of these statistics. Well, our method of doing these micro-internships allows you to assess these students, to get to know, to work with these students at a much shorter duration, so that before you and they make that costly decision of deciding, yep, this is it, this is who I want to work with for this summer or longer, you both have more information to know that, yep, this is truly a good fit and going to be a good fit for the long term. Because no matter where you are in your hiring, whether you are looking to have students just know more about your organization, Maybe you're trying to assess what skills is going to be a good fit for that open role that you're trying to fill. Maybe you've already have your full slate of interns or new hires already identified, and you're looking for opportunities to keep them engaged. We constantly are hearing about Renegs being a major challenge for a lot of organizations. I remember when I was in the hiring process myself as an undergraduate, I received my full-time offer in Halloween. I was in my Halloween costume when I got the call, very excited. But I had a long time between October and July when I finally started that full-time job. And so, that's a long time where other opportunities can and actually did come up. So how do you keep students engaged and excited about joining your organization? Or maybe you're a hiring manager a hiring manager on your team just knocked on your door and said, actually, I need help with some extra assignment or this open role that I need to fill right now. And you're looking for an on-demand pipeline of early career talent to help you for those things that just pop up. No matter where you are, again, this micro-internship concept can be very beneficial to you and your organization. I'm also excited to share that you can try this at no cost to your organization, thanks to the generosity of a number of different philanthropic organizations and other stakeholders like those logos that you see at the bottom. We have bundled these programs into an umbrella that we call Gigs for Good, which essentially allows organizations such as yours to be able to access paid micro-internships exclusively for specific students, including CSUSB, at no cost to your organization. So through this free trial, you'll hear a little bit more about this. You can reach these students, you can test drive a micro-internship, whether it be for that short-term need or something longer. You can engage that talent pipeline and really see how this can be an effective resource for your early career. And again, do this at no cost to your organization. Now, for the purpose of CSUSB, I want to do a particular call out and thanks to the organization featured in the bottom right corner. That logo which is the Frederick A. DeLuca Foundation. This is a Florida-based nonprofit that focuses on some of the challenges around helping individuals launch their career in workforce development. And they generously provided a grant to Parker Dewey about 3 years ago, funding micro-internships for organizations at no cost. They do limit the schools, but CSUSB is one of the beneficiaries of this program. So what does that mean for you? Well, let's talk about it. Micro-internships, as I mentioned before, are short-term paid professional projects, which is an on-demand resource where you can engage a student at CSUSB or elsewhere on a short-term project with a specific deliverable. This is not designed to be an ongoing engagement. This isn't where you take your full-time job description and plug it into our platform. That's not what we do. But rather, this is an opportunity for you to think about a short-term project, a project that, in the case of the grant, can be completed in roughly 15 hours. And the student gets paid upon completion. And again, those 15-hour projects for CSUSB are at no cost to your organization, but it's something that gives you that flexible way to get a project done while also allowing you to see that student in action, to be able to see, wow, they're an amazing fit for this open role. I want to bring them on for something longer, and for them to make that decision as well. Now, I mentioned the 15 hours. That's just because of the nature of this grant. This is something, though, that you can do year-round for shorter or longer projects. We see the demand for micro-internships on the student side being year-round and really anytime, all the time, because students are always really excited to be able to put to work what they're learning in the classroom. And the payment is key because it helps it to be accessible, even to those students who are working or doing sports or busy in other extracurriculars or just have other demands for their time. This allows them to be able to participate and be fairly compensated. Speaking of compensation, our goal here at Parker Dewey is to make that easy for you. Easy in that you can not only try this at no cost thanks to the DeLuca grant, but also Parker Dewey handles the payment to the student. They're on our books, not yours. You don't even need to fill out any of the paperwork or any of again, we take care of that payment to the students. They are independent contractors of Parker Dewey, not your organization. Similarly, we also want to make sure you don't have any barriers for hiring the student long term. So if you meet a student, you want to bring them on for an internship or a full-time role, fantastic. You don't owe us a dime. We want that to happen. That is our ultimate mission and goal, is that this be a fantastic hiring tool for you and for the student, that this can lead into something longer term for them. Which leads me to the intricacies of the DeLuca grant. Well, because of the nature of this grant, this is for organizations to post 15-hour projects. The other piece for this is that the organizations must either be a nonprofit or be using the micro-internship as a hiring tool for an open longer-term role, internship or full-time. And so you could try this out, no cost to your organization, just so long as it's designed to give you a look to see if it'll turn into something long-term for the student, or if you're a nonprofit, you can participate even if it is just an ad hoc project. One last detail is that the projects themselves must be professional in nature. So this isn't babysit my kids, walk my dog, even though my dogs would love you for that. This isn't what this role is designed to do. This is designed to give that student some resumeable experience that ideally connects directly with what they're learning in the classroom, so that they can have some future experiences to talk about how this helped them long term. One way to think of this then is to think about your open long-term roles. So for example, let's say you have an open role on your team for an entry-level data marketer. Well, what our team will help you do is essentially unpack the job description, unbundle that into discrete projects. We do this for you. You don't need to become an expert. That's what our team is built to do and what we've been doing for the last 10 years. But if you look at that job description in this hypothetical job, the first line says this person would need to assist in gathering, analyzing, and reporting marketing data. Great. Taking apart just those key things alone, and that can help. If you take in a project around data cleanup and visualization, you'll be able to assess whether or not a student can do those different skills that would be required for that role. We'll help you create those job descriptions so that you can see the student's quality of work and the skills that they are demonstrating through those projects. So what we see with these micro-internships is it's not only just about getting something done, but it's really about giving you that early look, not only into the technical ability of the students, but also into some of those core skills, the things that we all want when we're hiring for individuals on our team, but that are really difficult to assess when looking at a resume. So for example, who wouldn't want somebody who's a self-starter, having good attention to detail, who's generally interested in your organization? Those are all characteristics that you can know that a student has just by simply applying to your micro-internship. Nobody is forcing them to apply to your project. By just simply signing up for Parker Dewey, you know that they're a self-starter, because we don't mass enroll anybody into our platform. And then by working together on these short-term projects, you and the student are able to really see what it's like to work together. But for you, you can really glean some powerful things like, how effectively does a student communicate? How did they take that feedback that you gave them about the quality of their work? Did they turn their work in on time? Again, every one of us, no matter what role we might be recruiting for, are looking for these key skills. This micro-internship allows you the ability to see these before making that longer-term commitment. And then the work product itself really allows you to see, does the student have the technical skills that you're looking for your organization? So for instance, how effectively did they problem solve when maybe they encountered some challenge with the project? Or did they ask thoughtful questions? Did they present the final deliverable in a professional manner? Did they have good attention to detail in terms of it being error-free and formatted appropriately, and so on? All of this can really help you to see who is going to be a good fit for whatever those roles might be. We also see that this really benefits students, because the students, when we survey them, have told us that they start looking for opportunities to explore their career paths very early. 75% say in the first 2 years of their academic journey, they're thinking about and wanting to start exploring career paths. But they're also telling us the traditional methods of doing so fall short. Students, and we could probably attest to this if we've been to career fairs, students generally look relatively the same on paper because they just lack all of these different world experiences. But the micro-internships allow you to really see them in action, to see whether or not they truly would be a good fit for the culture of your organization. And 95% of these students have said this is how they want to be recruited. They want to get to know you just like you want to get to know them. But this doesn't just benefit the students. This also definitely benefits your organization because through one platform, you can access all of the students across all of the different majors and all the different academic programs nationwide. So just CSUSB, but maybe you also have locations or interests elsewhere in the country or throughout the state of California or wherever. This allows you one platform to be able to reach students no matter your recruiting goals. If diversity, equity, and inclusion is still a priority for your organization, also know that 80% of students who have been selected for micro-internships have come from historically underrepresented backgrounds. Now, we are super honored and proud of that. However, that has nothing to do with Parker Dewey. That just speaks to the accessibility of the model, that this is the best students are being selected and they just happen to be from underrepresented backgrounds. And again, we are super honored that this is an accessible resource for organizations to be able to engage students no matter their background and to really allow them to be able to demonstrate their skills. There's a lot of talk right now around skills-based hiring. That's exactly what this is. It's allowing you to see those skills in action before deciding whether or not those skills are really a good fit for those longer-term roles. And by the way, the students do a phenomenal job, as evidenced by the fact that 97% of the project's supervisors said that the student met or exceeded their expectations, and 98% of those students are still with their first company a year after they've completed their degree. So from a retention standpoint, it's a significant cost benefit. Now, I mentioned before that you can access and post micro-internships at no cost to your organization. And for those of you who are looking at using this for a hiring tool, I'm also excited to share that you can have access not only to the projects, but also to some really powerful micro-internship data and applicant data, which we call our Parker Dewey Plus candidate intelligence platform. You can have access to this at no cost as well for 60 days, which allows you to have some really great visibility into who applied to your projects, the feedback the students have received on these projects, where geographically these students are located, and so on. And there's some really great data as well that you can see as well. So I'm going to take a breath here and just pause because at this point, as I mentioned before, depending on your goals, if you are thinking, you know what, I would be interested in seeing how this could all work for recruiting at scale, would encourage you, if you have an open job description or some key skills that you're looking for, you can take it from there. No need to hear any more because we are here and happy to help you get started. And I'm going to put the link to this in the chat in case this is you. All you would need to do is identify, yep, this is kind of where we're looking at our recruiting, our organization's name, and then the job description that you have in mind. And our team will help identify those projects as I illustrated before. Or maybe you just wanted to talk to somebody. I really have some more questions. Okay, no worries. That's exactly, again, where this conversation can be helpful. And again, if this is something that would be beneficial for you to just think about and talk through how you can do this at scale, that's again where our team can certainly help one-on-one. So wanted to share those two links. If you are interested in wanting to just, I've got a project in mind, how do I get started? Stay tuned, because that's exactly where we're going now. So to get started, to post your micro-internship, it's essentially 3 quick steps. Think about the project itself, and then you'll select the student that you want to work with once they've applied. And then from there, the work gets done. It's very hands-off at that point after you have a quick onboarding conversation with the students. Part of the reason why this is so easy is not only do we have 10 years of doing this, but also our team is here to support you every step of the way. So for example, Posting your project. Well, the best and easiest way to start are with some project templates. So we have a number of different examples of micro-internships that we have seen over the years that have been successfully implemented at scale. So to get you started with those, I'm going to put another link in the chat, but this is the website that you may have already seen, but it was specifically designed for CSUSB and explains how it all works. If you haven't already, you can click this Create an Account button to be led to where you can get started with creating a Parker Dewey account and getting your project posted. It is no cost to your organization to create an account or to post a project. The only time you would ever see an invoice is once you've selected a micro-internship. So you can always post a project of any size or scale and then be able to see what the applicant pool is like before deciding whether or not you want to move forward. Now, there are some projects listed here on the website. So if any of these are ones that interest you, fantastic. You can go ahead and post this project, click on that particular link, or you can start with a custom project if you wish to do so. Now I'm going to just pick on this user experience testing project just for a quick example. And I already have a Parker Dewey account that I've logged into, and so that project pre-populated for me. I can choose whatever start date, whatever due date that I would like, and I can modify this description as needed. So we see UX testing, whether it be for a site or website or an app. Sometimes it might be for a user manual or something along those lines. This is a great project for maybe one student or potentially for many students so that you can have multiple perspectives on whatever it is that you're trying to operationalize. Now, most micro-internships are completed remotely, and the default is for it to be a remote assignment. We definitely recommend that whenever possible, as it makes it easier for you and more accessible to more students. However, some projects must be on site, and that's why there is the option to toggle this over if needed. We do require location, though, and that is so that you and the student can make sure that geographically you know where each other are, which can help with logistics, but it also helps you and the students to understand where you might be located, which can help the student to see, maybe realize about career opportunities that they would not have necessarily recognized in that particular location. Now, the next section is where you can identify how many students and your budget for this particular project. As I mentioned before, if you wanted to take advantage of that DeLuca Foundation grant, you certainly can do so, and those projects are where the students would receive $300 upon completion. And that would be, again, at no cost to your organization, provided you're a nonprofit or using this for a hiring or for an open hiring role. So for that, you would be participating in a program funded by a third party and would not be charged. But again, if you wanted to do this at scale, you certainly can post these opportunities for longer durations and for more students. Now, the DeLuca grant does require that the projects be 15 hours or fewer, just to ensure fair compensation for the students. We do recommend budgeting around $20 per estimated hour of work when posting your micro-internships, as that does equate to, again, what is fair compensation for internships based on the National Association of Colleges and Employers. And frankly, we know that the hourly rate for a lot of jobs are going up, and so we want to make sure that it's appealing to the students and that the students are being fairly compensated. Now, these are fixed fee engagements. So in this particular example, if it took the student 15 hours, great. If it takes them 10, 9, 12, 16, 18, 20, again, nobody's asking the student for a timesheet. They are paid the fixed fee, in this case of $300 upon completion of the project, no matter how many times or how much time that they spend on it. Also know that you can work with one student or you can work with more. And so we do see for organizations who do have longer term hiring needs, this is a great opportunity to post the project for multiple students. And that way you can see the students in action and be able to assess student A versus B, C, D, and E at scale and be able to quickly determine which student performed the best, which student might be the best fit for those longer term engagements. The next section is where you can identify specific skills that you might be looking for. Maybe you have a particular software package that the student needs to be familiar with, or you want them to use a particular type of data analytics tool, anything along those lines you can highlight here. The next section is where you can specifically state that you want this to be for, if I can type, San Bernardino students, CSUSB students. This would make the project only visible to CSUSB. And so certainly we encourage you, if you only want this opportunity to be available for CSUSB, this is how you can do so. If you do leave it open, then students from a nationwide pool of schools would see this and be able to apply, but you can always filter based on the student's school if you wish to do so. Now, affiliations and programs is where you can identify if you are participating in a program like the DeLuca Foundation program that I mentioned before. This would make the project only visible to eligible schools and students at those institutions. So you don't have to remember the hundreds of schools that are eligible for this program. This would only and automatically make it just visible to those students. And then the last couple of questions is where you can add application questions, which allows you this chance to not only learn a little bit more about that particular student with job or project specific questions, but this is also for the student, the application, and also kind of like the interview. Think of this section as replacing the need for a phone screen, because by having the student answer these quick questions, you can glean a lot about their fit for that role, their level of interest for your organization or that project, and this can really help you decide what student might be a really good fit. Because going back to the project description and the template here, I left a couple of templates on and screenshots in the presentation so you can refer to it later. But you certainly can and are encouraged, and I put a couple of little details too for those funded programs. But when you're seeing these projects, do make sure that you're able to see quickly those answers to those short answer questions. You're able to see their LinkedIn profile or their resume if they chose to provide that. But those short answer questions really allow you to quickly decide whether or not that student is a good fit long term. And this quickly allows you to make that decision so that you and the student can start working together. Now, as soon as you select one or however many students you choose to work with, you and the student are immediately put in touch with each other, getting each other's contact information so that you and the student can meet over Zoom, Teams, or however you want to connect for that initial project kickoff conversation. That meeting is critical, super important, so that you and the student can decide, all right, how are we going to communicate with each other? What are some of the milestones, the project deadlines that you want to convey to the student? What are some of the resources that the student might need in order to execute the project effectively? Now, if you have questions along the way, we have a client success team that will be checking in with both you and the student to make sure everything is staying on track, to help you and the student should any hiccups arise. When the project is completed, you just simply mark it as completed within the Parker Dewey platform, but then you're led to a survey where we're asking you in exchange for the free project to please give the student some feedback to make sure that they can understand their strengths, maybe some opportunities where they could have done a little bit better, and that data becomes incredibly valuable for the professional development of the student. And it also helps Dr. Bidding and her team to be able to decide where they can best support students from a programmatic effort, because they can see, okay, our students have done really, really well in this, might need a little help in these other professional development areas. And again, all of this data feeds into that candidate intelligence platform that I mentioned before, which you can access again at no cost, thanks to the free trial option. So where and how does this help you and your team? Well, depending on your goals, this can really augment that early career talent, that build your talent pipeline. Earlier at the top of the presentation, I asked the question around what are some of the hiring challenges that you're trying to solve? And the two most popular answers were growing student awareness and brand, and reaching target talent and growing your pipeline. And that's exactly what this micro-internship is designed to do. It's designed to help students who've never heard of your company to realize that there's amazing opportunities at your organization. It's to help you and them be able to demonstrate their skills so you can really see, are they going to be a good fit? And it's very low lift, it's very short-term time commitment, so that in just a couple of conversations with the student, maybe even just an email or two, you can really assess these students' skills and decide if they're going to be a good fit for those longer-term initiatives. So how do organizations do this at scale programmatically? Well, it starts with a conversation, which is again why I put the link for where you can have those conversations with our team in that demo request link. And I'll put that once more in the tool, or it's me in the chat in case you missed it. But essentially, we want to understand what your goals are. What hiring challenges are you trying to solve? For example, we're hearing a lot about companies, my colleague just mentioned in a meeting I had right before this, that they spoke to a financial services company who's particularly excited about working with student athletes. But they recognize, student athletes, they're really crunched on time. They can't necessarily do traditional internships depending on the sport that they're playing. This is a great opportunity for them to be able to have that short-term, quick engagement, see those students in action, and be able to do it at scale. Or maybe the goal is supporting students from underrepresented backgrounds who, again, have similar challenges and pain points around availability. They have to work and go to school. Maybe they can't do a traditional internship because they need their job to pay the rent, but then this allows you to be able to still connect with and engage those students who bring so many vitally important skills, but who just may not be able to do a traditional internship with your organization. We want to understand those goals so that we can help collaboratively design a program that meets whatever your initial mission and objectives are. So for example, maybe your goal is to hire for an open role that you have right now. For instance, Smith & Nephew, a medical device company, multi-billion-dollar organization that had its traditional career fairs that target schools that it would go to, but was still finding a challenge around open roles for its business development team. It had as a rotational development sales program, and it still had some open slots. And this was towards the end of spring recruiting season. Well, they reached out and hosted a micro-internship, which essentially was a project less than 10 hours in duration, where the student was to do research on one of their products, develop a sales pitch for that product to include a presentation, and then to deliver that presentation via Zoom. Now they chose, in this case, 12 students to do that particular project. And that project engaged students across a variety of schools and majors that mostly were not schools that they already had attended the career fairs for. These were new schools for them, but it led to 5 full-time hires, a cost per hire reduction of over 70%. Because of the scale and the low cost nature of this. And something else to keep in mind about the cost is that the money is going into the pockets of the students. So from an egalitarian or just visibility and what does your brand stand for, it's a pretty powerful message to tell students that, hey, we are committed in working with you in early career hiring to the point of even including this as compensation for part of the interview process, because that's essentially what that is here. And again, we can help you identify those projects so that this is low lift and scalable for you. Another example of a project that we regularly see are campus ambassadors. And for those of you who mentioned before that brand building and students don't know who we are is a challenge for your organization, this can help. We saw this with Train Technologies, a manufacturing firm that, again, frankly, students just don't know much about. But they hired campus ambassadors at several of their target schools to be able to build awareness of their company, to do all of the kind of organic type of peer-to-peer spreading the word. These students would table at different things on campus. They would go to class presentations. They went to student organizations. They knew what classes, what professors, what school clubs, and so on. And it just really allowed that company to have a nice scalable way to reach more students, to start to get opportunities about their organization more on these students' radar. And because they posted it as a micro-internship, it gave the organization some nice flexibility to be able to work with lots of different students at lots of different schools. And the last example is with Xylem. a multi-billion-dollar water technology company that frankly most folks have never heard of, myself included, before we started working with them. But their goal for their micro-internship program was about increasing brand visibility, but also introducing students to opportunities across their organization. And they positioned it internally as a company perk. Their HR team worked with hiring managers across the company and essentially said, hey, this is a flexible way for you as a busy hiring manager to be able to hire students at no cost, because it was already covered by HR in this case, for your team to be able to work with these students on these ad hoc projects. The only ask from HR was those students that they worked with, those became part of the hiring pipeline. So in other words, work with the students, give us some feedback on how they did, and those students that were amazing, let's bring them in for early career roles, internships, full-time, and they would become part of the hiring process for those open internship and full-time roles. This really allowed them to engage students across the country. So they had over 3,000 students that applied to these micro-internships at 800 plus colleges and universities nationwide. So a massive increase to their talent pipeline, and it didn't require them to travel anywhere. So it was a really effective way to really deepening their talent pipeline across their organization. In addition, it also was a great perk for their corporate HR recruiting, for their corporate HR initiatives. Now, these programs can be executed very efficiently. We see most micro-internships posted and filled within 48 hours. And if you are looking at something more at scale, these programs that I described can all be set up within a week. So very quick and easy to get started, particularly for those of you who want to capitalize on the fact that there's only a few weeks left in a traditional college student's schedule before they head off to summer and whatever else they might be doing. But this is still something that can help you with filling any of those last minute roles and needs. So going back to the initial questions, I mentioned that there were a bunch of you that selected this growing student awareness and brand and reaching that targeted pipeline. Well, just know there are additional case studies and examples of how micro-internships can help address these particular pain points. So you can check out any of these at your leisure when you get the slides, including some testimonials and other links that might be helpful. But just to wrap up, there's essentially 3 options for where you can take this. And start with that initial project, particularly if you have something that's immediately top of mind that you want off of your plate. But also recognize or welcome you to check out that free trial if you are interested in using this at scale, or meet with a member of our team. We'll be happy to talk through any and all of these questions with you. So I'm going to now turn it back to Dr. Bidding, and if there's anything I missed, anything that might need to go over. But I also just want to thank both Dr. Bidding, you and your team for your support and partnership, but also everyone who joined us today for all of your time and attention. If you have any questions, I'm happy to stick around as well.
Thank you so much, Kristen. I'll go ahead and open it up to any questions folks may have. For Kristen, it was a lot of good, thorough information. But as she shared, she'll share out the slides and the recording. And if any questions come up, you have support from her team, and then we're also available as well. But I'll go ahead and open it up to those that may have questions as well.